Hey y'all, this is the Beyond the Dojo podcast. I'm Lauren.
I'm Jeremiah.
And I believe this is episode 28. Fairly certain it's 28. And the reason I know you don't know this time, but the last episode we released was the women's episode, which by the way, you guys are rock stars because that's actually our most listened to episode ever.
Really?
Yeah, it's got close to 300 listens.
Because I wasn't on it.
It's because Jeremiah wasn't on it because you guys don't want to hear his silly voice.
Yes, you don't want to hear this.
Maybe they do want to hear it. Maybe they listened to it because they actually thought, "Oh, Jeremiah's there." Oh, but then he wasn't. There.
It was a letdown.
And
that's the story of my life.
It is the story of your life.
Oh, that's even worse.
So anyway, thank you guys for listening to that.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks. I'm not gonna lie. I wasn't really sure how that was gonna go. Nothing against the women that were on it. I pretty much knew what they were gonna say. I wasn't sure how it was going to be.
That was something against the women on it right
there.
No,
it wasn't.
I pretty much knew what they were gonna say.
No. We had talked prior to. I knew what they were gonna say.
Good Lord.
I was concerned about how it was going to be taken. Because I know that some people get a little bit on the offended side about stuff, but we just kind of wanted to talk about their experiences. And I think they did an awesome job, and I'm really stoked that they shared what they did because, we're trying to make change moving forward, not trying to focus on the past, but we're trying to talk about our experiences so that we can learn from them.
Yeah, basically.
The karate community at large.
That's what history is.
It's
a teaching tool. So you don't make the same mistakes over and over again.
Correctamundo.
Good Lord.
Okay, jumping off the slightly political topic here because we just took a turn in that direction. That's fine. What was the other thing I was going to say? Also in the Karate Women group, I have a Karate Women group on Facebook. It's just a bunch of ladies that kind of talk back and forth. We share training ideas, whatever.
Maybe you want to share that page so people want to like it or join it.
Well, no, I talked about it before. It's a group, so if you are a lady, a woman, you have to be a female who trains karate in order to be in this group. You can request to enter the group if you would like. Not going to lie, it is a little bit frustrating to have a bunch of dudes trying to get into the group. It has happened, and I constantly have to decline people. So if you want to join the group, it needs to be very clear that you're a lady. It needs to be very clear that you train karate, and having a not completely locked profile is also helpful so that I don't think that you're a fake account. So anyhow.
So no gender fluid.
No dudes in the group. No dudes.
What is dudes? Are you going to use the scientific definition?
So one thing that we tried in the group today was we did a room. So I guess Facebook introduced this thing called rooms.
Sounds like Zoom.
It sounds like Zoom, but it's
it's
an
R.
But it's a room. I did not think about that. Oh my God. Yeah. Anyway, normally I would have caught that. Anyhow, we did a room call on Facebook. It was actually pretty cool. We had some ladies from different parts of the U.S. jump on the call. And obviously it's open to everybody. And we're going to do another one in a couple of weeks. So if you join the Karate Women group and you want to be part of the call, guys, you might not understand this, but women need emotional connection, and we need to talk and rant about things, and we have to feel comfortable in order to do that. And sometimes having a group of women that you can connect with is great because you get to do that. So if you want to do that, you can join the group.
But you can't because you'll be a guy.
You have to, if you're a lady, you can join the group.
But you were talking to guys.
No, okay. Hold up now. All right, women, you can join
misleading.
the group. So the last episode that Jeremiah and I recorded was on
COVID.
Smoker's cough.
COVID.
No, it was on social media etiquette.
Oh, yeah.
Which also had some interesting comments on that one. So today's topic is going to be on general training and dojo etiquette.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
You want to jump right into it?
Yeah. I got a little bit of a spiel I want to talk about.
Okay, go into the spiel, but don't share any of our rules yet.
Okay. Yes, I am micromanaged throughout my day.
Yep.
May I speak now?
You are indeed allowed to speak now.
See how that works?
Oh, no, not yet. Okay, now you can speak.
All right. I will say this in a way that I don't want to be disrespectful to anybody who really enjoys the cultural aspect of karate and whatnot. I'll say this: living in Japan for 10 years, throughout majority of my childhood, and as being mixed race, my mom being Japanese, I understand the Japanese culture a little bit better than most. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't say I'm an expert, but from my experiences as a child, I understand the subtleties of it. Mm-hmm. When Japanese children bow to their teachers, or if adults bow to each other, it's generally a very respectful way of saying hi.
So you're gonna go into the rules?
No, I'm just saying. Okay. I'm just saying, it's a very cultural based aspect. It's nothing extra or more than normal.
Well, I think you can say that in general about a lot of the things that have become the norm in dojos, especially in the U.S. Is like it's probably based in some kind of like cultural thing in Japan, right. And we've, as Americans, tend to blow things up a little bit.
Right. Well, what I'm trying to say is this:
exaggerate them.
Yeah, I think a lot of times it gets lost in translation.
Yeah.
That's all my point was trying to make before we start talking about anything else. It's understandable, but I think some people misunderstood or misinterpreted what they saw or learned.
Oh, I think we could do an entire podcast on people misunderstanding and
lost in translation,
losing the translation of what is being taught to them or shown to them, because we are rock stars at doing that here in the U.S.
Yeah?
Yes.
Excellent.
All right. So rule number 1 of general training etiquette. Okay. Do you want to read the first one?
You go ahead. Since
I wrote the notes?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's got a purple background.
It's got a purple background, which would,
she
throw off Jeremiah's vibe if he reads it. Number 1 is understand the etiquette of lining up as a dojo person and also as a visitor.
Yeah.
You want to expand on that?
Yeah. So as a member of the dojo, you always want to line up to the left of a higher ranked person. Mm-hmm. If you have the same colored belt, you want to line up to the person to the left of someone who's been there longer. Mm-hmm. That makes sense. It's not a seniority thing. It's just the way the Japanese do it in their culture. They do it in school. They do it as factory workers in the morning. I mean, it is ingrained in them.
Yeah.
So that being said, that's how you should do it as a member of the dojo. Always to the left of a senior member, either by rank or by what would you call it? Attendance?
Amount of time training.
Time training, yeah. Longevity?
No.
No, okay. No.
We got weird. The point.
Okay. All right. If you're a guest, and you're just, coming in to train or whatever, you, as a Q rank, that means your colored belt, you want to try to line up at the end of the rank or the lowest or furthest to the left as possible until the sensei moves you to the appropriate spot. Always allow him to do it because it's just the polite thing to do.
Yeah.
Don't assume where you stand. Mm-hmm. And generally that is the best and most proper etiquette you could display. If you're a Dan rank, you will always line up as the lowest Dan rank until the sensei changes that.
Yeah.
Never make assumptions.
Yeah. Well, sorry, go ahead.
Because some dojos, believe in that whole rule of, my dans are going to line up higher than any guest and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Which is understandable. And if that's their culture, you just, if you're going to Billy's playground, play by Billy's rules.
Yeah. And there's two sides to that too. Like, so in our old dojo, when I was growing up, you lined up by rank, but it was more like belt color. So like we had 6 belts in our dojo, right. And we would just go by belt color. So we didn't really care if you were like, if you are an orange belt, you could be a 7th Q, a 6th Q, and in our dojo we did B ranks too. Mm-hmm. So you could be any like 7B, 6B, or whatever, or vice versa, something like that, or 5B, I don't know, whatever. Anyway, there's like 4 different ranks under orange belt. So we didn't try to determine like who was the higher rank. They just said all the orange belts go here, all the yellow belts go there, all the white belts go there, whatever. But you can't obviously assume that a dojo does that. In our old dojo, we didn't really care. You just line up in a spot, and you would actually get yelled at if you spent too much time trying to figure out who outranked you. Yeah. So it just depends on the dojo. But if you're a guest, like Jeremiah said, just line up at the end of your section. That way you're seen as respectful. And the other thing is, like, I know that we'll kind of talk about this to a point a little bit later, but whenever you are visiting a dojo, the issue with you lining up on your own at the higher end, particularly like if you're at Dan rank, is like, there are people in that dojo that invested their time and they earned that spot. You know, they could be teachers, they could just be, you know, an influential part of that dojo, you know, whatever. Whether or not you like it, it's their dojo, and they do deserve to be able to stand at a higher level, whether or not, regardless of you. It has nothing to do with you. So I would be respectful of that, of what they've contributed to that community, and you acknowledge that you're just stepping in for the night or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, you should always take that attitude of a white belt attitude when you're a guest in any dojo. Mm-hmm. You know, that's just the best way to do it. That's the safest way. Yeah.
And on the flip side, I mean, if you're part of a dojo, I would try to not get offended if someone tries to like line up ahead of you who's a guest.
Yeah.
Because that is an indicator of maybe either ignorance or of their own insecurities or their own need to exert their dominance on somebody else. Yeah. But you know, I would try to not worry about it. So this is mostly for the people who are the ones that are having to line up and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Rule number 2. Gauge your training intensity by who is in front of you.
So if you're in your mid-30s, early 40s, or whatever, and you line up with a 60-year-old woman or a 60-year-old partner, the last thing you should be doing is showing how much more power and speed you have.
That's kind of the next one.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's what you said, Gage.
No, well, that's kind of a different one. So we're saying...
Okay, my bad, dude. Sorry.
It's fine. These two are kind of similar.
This is why y'all listen to the other podcasts and the ones with me not on them, because I make blundering mistakes like this, because there's more than one way to peel a cat.
Okay, so there's more than one way to peel a cat. Okay, so there's 2 here. So rule number 2 is gauge your training intensity by who's in front of you. Rule number 3 is don't try to dominate other people unless mutually agreed upon. So those are kind of 2 different concepts. The first is, you know, you as a training partner, training with someone else, you're going to like speed up or slow down based on the person in front of you. You're going to make sure that you are kind of mirroring each other. And also like, so this is something that kind of went along with what we were talking about in the women's podcast, or maybe it was after the fact. I don't really remember. Whenever we talked about in the women's podcast. So whenever you're facing off against someone, you don't gauge your training based on the fact that, like, oh, I'm in front of a female, or, oh, I'm in front of a whatever. You gauge it based on, like, their strength and ability, and then as you start training, you're able to, like, get a feel for that, especially as a more advanced rank. You're able to see, like, hey, they can pick it up, so I'm going to pick it up. So, you know, you're able to, like, kind of go back and forth in that way. But the other one is the dominance one. You talk about that one. Don't try to dominate other people unless mutually agreed upon.
Right. So what I was saying about that is if you're, 20 years younger than the person that you're standing in front of, be a little respectful, and move with a high standard of control until you get to know each other very well. And then if the older partner says pick up the pace or tells you to go faster, be respectful and go faster.
Yeah.
That's part of etiquette is that you're let going of what you want at certain points and going, okay, this person is the training partner, he's doing the drill, I need to accommodate them.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But some people take that to the extreme and go, oh, I'm going to over-accommodate them and give them the best training in the world, and it's too much for them. And they dominate. Right?
Honestly, I don't think anyone who's dominating somebody else is actually thinking that.
No, they don't
care.
They're
really thinking, I'm going to give them a good training.
No, it's more like...
They're just trying to dominate.
Yeah, it's an egotistical thing, right? I agree with you there. But what I'm trying to say is this. There's no problem with going really hard and really strong if the partner is telling you to do that. Mm-hmm. If your partner's going, hey, pick up the pace, go a little bit here, or whoa, slow down. That's the proper etiquette. Is that the person doing the drill is driving the car. Mm-hmm. So if he needs to hit the brakes, you hit the brakes. If you need to hit the gas, you hit the gas, because that is what's going to help them.
Yeah.
The ego stuff, that's something you got to work on. If you just want to dominate people, then you should go to competition and have those things and not be training with people. I mean, it's a whole different mindset.
Get out of the dojo because you're not really helping anybody. Right. When I was coming up, our old dojo used to call it hot dogging.
Yeah.
I think I mentioned that before, where you're essentially trying to just beat up somebody else. I know that there are Japanese dojos that would do this supposedly, but there are dojos that feel that when a new person comes in the dojo, they have to establish the pecking order, so they have to beat the person up in order to make sure that they know that this is our land. Urgh.
Yeah, that pecking order thing, man, that used to be a big issue in the 80s and early 90s.
Yeah.
That is definitely a reflection of the head sensei.
I can see that, yeah.
Because there's so many dojos that are part of the same organizations or even part of the same, like, kind of brother-sister dojo system where they train together a lot that have complete different attitudes when it comes to that.
Yeah.
So it is a reflection of the head sensei and his insecurities.
I think that you could say that a lot of these etiquette rules are reflections of that, but especially like the dominance thing.
Yeah.
Like feeling like you... Okay, well, let's talk about that for a second.
Notorious is Mori Sensei out of New York.
Okay.
He is notorious for establishing that hierarchy.
Uh-huh.
And then he is like... He's so domineering over his students that his students tend to do that.
Yeah.
And, he has a documentary out on it's called Karate on the River or something like that. Mm-hmm. And it just talks about how when he came to New York and how he established his dojo and the things he valued. And they're talking about a lot of Budo aspect and a lot of attitude. But I felt like he is one of those examples where you got lost in translation and people went a little militaristic too much. Mm-hmm. And it became this thing like, I'm a Mori Sandan. No, nobody else's Goldan is going to stand in front of me.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. And it's like, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, there's something to be said, too, against senseis who feel that they have to dominate their students. Like, this is a totally different a topic altogether, I guess.
Right.
But, and obviously that's the example that's set for the students that, I have to dominate other people. To me, that calls into question, is that sensei skilled enough and intelligent enough to be able to teach what they're trying to teach without harming or in other ways dominating their students? Are you unable to get your point across without being a big jerk? Right. Now, granted, sometimes in order to show something, you obviously are more skilled than they are. That's one thing. Right. When you're physically more skilled or you're showing a skill and they're being an uge, sometimes they're sacrificing themselves to be able to show that. That's understandable. But if they're especially getting physically harmed, in an excessive way, I think that's next level, and that's going to trickle down to your students, and that's where you run into that
yeah, I agree with
that ego thing that you're running into on the floor where somebody's got to be better than somebody else.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think if you're talking at a higher ranking or higher level, say Sandan and above, and you're going to seminars and stuff like that, and you got teachers out there that'll kind of use the case and hit them hard, And to me, at a higher level, you should be able to take a hit somewhat.
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes the impact is affecting the next move.
Sure, yeah.
So you kind of have to have a little bit of that.
Yeah.
But if you're doing that against lower ranked people, Q ranks, Shodan ranks, Nidan ranks, I just, to me... Everybody knows when someone's bullying somebody and when they're not.
Yeah.
And it's obvious and when they do that, so.
Yeah. There's a difference between being extremely skilled when you show what you're doing to where that person is just not capable of being able to respond versus, actually inflicting physical harm on the person in ways that could be, long lasting. I mean, that's kind of why we train with control. We're trying to have enough control to not hurt each other. So anyway, off the soapbox now. I have to sneeze.
Sorry. If there's anybody who's watched the Yahada 8th Dan test, you know what I'm talking about.
I haven't, so I don't. Okay, number 4, totally different topic. So rule number 4, ask permission before giving corrections, especially of a higher rank. This is not referring to teachers. This is talking about people training on the dojo floor, at seminars, in the world at large. Maybe social media too.
Well, even some overzealous students like to go ahead and correct before they're ready to be giving corrections. we do have those kids who feel like they intellectually understand what's going on, and they think they can just share it no matter what.
Yes, when you have students who are getting a trained eye, when they see something that they feel is incorrect, they want to spit it out sometimes, and they want to tell people regardless of what that person's rank is. And obviously they don't understand the social etiquette just yet.
And regardless of the fact that they're incapable of doing it.
Right.
That's the problem too.
Just because you see it doesn't mean that you can make that correction. Like, I guess you can say it and try to make the correction, but there has to be a level of humility there. Like, hey, I see this. I haven't done it, or I can't do it, but I'm letting you know what I'm seeing. Once again, going back to, you should probably ask permission
first. Yeah.
Yeah. I know that there are some dojos that within their regular Q ranks and stuff, they like to give correction back and forth because they feel that it keeps their members humble. There's a dojo out of South Florida, I think, that does that. But a lot of times they do have that, like, I think one of the in Minnesota, they were saying that they actually have students ask each other first before giving a correction. Hey, can I give you a correction? Rather than just spitting it out at each other, because sometimes that kind of takes people off. Right.
Well, again, it goes to that personality of the dojo.
Mm-hmm. That's all for that one. It's just
ask permission before
giving corrections.
Yeah, especially with Q ranks to higher ranks. Well, then
we've had Q ranks give correction to Don ranks before, and we just look at them like, oh, don't do that. Don't do that.
Don't do that. And then the other one is if you're training in a seminar, and you're training with guys that are black belts, and I think we're trying to establish these things in seminars where you have an equal flooring, an equal level, and you're trying to encourage each other, because seminars should be about learning new things and not repeating old.
Yeah. But you have to be sensitive to the fact that other people do still kind of have an ego. I mean, even not into a bad degree. Some people are going to have one.
Right. So what I always encourage in seminars, and maybe I'm kind of notorious for it, I like to talk to people. I'll talk to my partner a lot.
Yes.
A lot. And,
yes, he does.
And what I'm trying to do is figure out
what... stop.
Yes. Kind of like you.
Okay.
So what I was saying was I like to talk to them for two reasons. A, it kind of lightens up the atmosphere. Mm-hmm. You get to get them engaged, and they're talking back and forth, and it's a mutual, enjoyable experience. Mm-hmm. Secondly, normally if someone has an ego or is going to be domineering, within the first couple interactions with the person, what's going to happen.
Yeah.
You can almost tell. You're like, this guy's going to try to hurt me. Mm-hmm. Or he's going to try to show he's stronger or faster. Mm-hmm. You can just tell by the way what they're focused on. Mm-hmm. So I would encourage people to talk to each other. Mm-hmm. Make sure you know each other. And then, I'd also be encouraging, if someone's that way, that if they go past your threshold, to make sure they clear it and understand that that's past my speed. Yeah. I'm going to get hurt after this point.
Yeah. Well, it's just like making good social connections and being somewhat aware of like the social atmosphere between you and your partner.
Right.
Like if it's clear, like, hey, we're on a good level, we're talking, it's going great, I can just give them a correction. It's not going to be a big deal. That's one thing.
Yeah.
If you're not sure, you should just ask first.
Yeah, dude. I mean, but you got to get a good gauge.
Yeah.
That
takes practice.
Yeah.
I keep burping. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Here's the fun one. Number 5. Do not teacher's pet your sensei.
Oh, boy.
Bow to your sensei.
Yeah, the overzealous bowing to a sensei when they walk on the floor.
Yes.
That is so lost.
Sensei's here. Bow to your sensei.
Always
leaving. Bow to your sensei. Oh. Always go to the bathroom. Bow to your sensei.
He's going to sneeze. Oh.
Bow to your sensei.
Yeah, just, what? If you don't want to be disappointed by a superhero that's always been human, don't put him on a superhero pedestal.
Amen.
You know what I'm saying? Treat them like a human being. Give them the respect that they deserve. Mm-hmm. But don't, make them feel like they walk on freaking air.
Yeah.
Keep them. You're responsible to keep them humble.
Yeah.
I hate to tell you that. You're, as a student, you're supposed to challenge your teacher. Not in a physical way, but in a very character building and intellectual way.
Yeah.
You should always be making sure that, you're engaging with them.
Yeah, on a human level.
On a human level.
As far as the bowing thing, like, didn't haven't we talked to people that said like that's not the norm?
That is not
Japan,
the norm.
For people to like stop and bow to the sensei when they walk on the floor.
Unless there's like a big traveling sensei coming in where he's a guest, he's a rare guest, then you're gonna show your utmost respect and you're gonna stop and bow and give him that thing.
Yeah.
But you're not gonna bow when he walks out the office. You're not gonna bow when he goes to the bathroom or if he stops and sneezes. You're not gonna do that. You're just gonna give him his respect and then you're gonna move on.
You know, like in old movies where someone walks into a ballroom and everyone stops and they're like, presenting! And they say the name of the count or the duke or the whatever that's walking in, and everyone bows, and they walk in, and then they continue the music. It's like that.
Yeah, that is not what Japanese etiquette is about. I hate to tell you that. You give them a bow, and you just give them a very respectful bow. Now, whatever you interpret that to be, that's your own thing.
Yes.
You know what I mean? But
yeah,
Japanese are turned off by people who try too hard.
True that.
They don't like it. They would rather deal with a foreigner who's truly a bumbling fool.
Yeah.
And just doesn't understand. Because they can understand that the foreigner doesn't know any better.
Yeah.
They don't like it when a foreigner tries to be better at their own game.
Yeah, tries to be like...
Tries
to be Japanese. Yeah.
They don't... No one wants that. Could you imagine a Japanese... Let's flip the shoes. A Japanese kid comes over to the States and tries to be too American.
Tries to be like, to put on his southern accent and put on a cowboy hat and, hey, y'all!
Well, he would be the blunt of all the jokes because he's trying too hard to be something he's never going to be.
Right.
And that's how the Japanese see it with foreigners.
Yeah.
Just be yourself, be respectful, understand that this is an etiquette thing.
Yeah.
But don't try to suck up and blow bubbles, you know what I mean? Just...
Yeah. And, well, I mean, obviously this happens even with instructors that are not Japanese. I remember the first time I was at a seminar when I was a teenager, and the instructor walked in, and the person who was the head of the home dojo, like, stopped everybody, said, oh! And said the name of the instructor, and I was like, okay, why does... I get that he's here, but why are we all stopping? Everyone bowed. We're like, oh, okay, bow. Yeah, just the whole, like, overdoing it. The other thing is, like, I guess...
When they're not on the floor... Treat them like normal people.
Yeah.
You're giving them, like I said before, you want to be, if you're a true budoka, a true karateka, you're looking to be respectful and have a hold yourself in a certain manner.
Yeah.
Treat people that way.
Yeah. Don't act like they're gods.
Yeah, don't serve them up. You know, they're perfectly capable of getting a beer for themselves. They're perfectly capable of handling this stuff. You know, we complain about these instructors having these inflated egos, right? But where's the ones guilty of giving it to them?
I will say, I'm a little too candid with some of these high-level instructors. I watched a female deliver a glass of wine to a high-level instructor one time, and I said to him, wow, you've got her trained really well, huh? Now they're serving you alcohol. He was pretty embarrassed. I probably shouldn't have said that. Hey. But, hey, you know, that was not really his fault necessarily, I guess. But
you know what? He allowed it.
This is true. He didn't
make it. He didn't make it awkward that she did it. He ate it up.
Well, not necessarily, but I mean, how do you be polite in a situation? If you're a teacher and someone is nice to you and they do things like that, how do you check that? I don't think you'd be able to do that publicly right there. You'd have to do that privately and be like, hey, don't do that.
I don't know. I'm master making things awkward. I'd have been like,
yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, whatever. Thanks. I don't drink.
Yeah, but you know what? I'll never have that opportunity because my personality is such.
No one is gonna bring you a glass of wine,
they're like, fuck
dear.
that guy. I'm sorry.
Your word?
I said, bump that guy.
Trying to make this clean, sort of.
Yeah.
The other thing is, piece of trivia. What does the word sensei mean? It means teacher, right? Teacher. Okay? So it's like saying Mr. or Mrs. You did not have to call your sensei off of the dojo floor. Now, if they are demanding that you call them sensei off the dojo floor, okay, well, maybe they have some of those ego things that they have to deal with, and maybe you do have to adhere to that because you don't want to screw up relationship with them. But if they're not asking, just call them by their name. You could say Mr. whatever their last name is. That's respectful. You know, this is America. Yeah. Or wherever you are listening from. But you don't actually have to call them sensei unless they ask you to do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, we know teachers that are straight, like my teacher growing up was straight up like, yeah, don't call me sensei. Because he felt like it was reserved for his teacher. So he didn't really like being called sensei. And we have another teacher now who's the same way. He's like, you don't actually have to call me sensei. That's fine. Just call me by my name.
Yeah. So. And people don't understand that, and it's unfortunate. Mm-hmm. I think...
By the way, if it's not copyright infringement, I definitely want to make a shirt that says "Bow to your sensei." If you know where that quote is from, then we can be friends. But if you don't, I don't know if we can be friends anymore.
Well, you just gotta look it up, Google it.
But if you can throw a pigskin a quarter mile, then you'll get it.
Yep.
Trying to think of another one.
No, I'm trying to think of the girlfriend of the brother.
LaFonda.
LaFonda. If you could date.
So now you're gonna give it away.
If you could date LaFonda.
Yes. All right. Number 6. Have an understanding of personal boundaries and professionalism as a teacher.
Yeah.
So this is a slightly different perspective as well.
Yeah. So I think a lot of the guys, I can speak from a guy's perspective that you're not really aware of where you're standing in relationship to your students and when they're doing activities and stuff until that you get money shotted. Does that make sense? Where you just stand in the wrong spot and you're like, oh God, got to change.
Cross shot.
Yeah, basically, you got to know that stuff and you got to make sure you're aware of that because karate teachers do have a bad rep of being pervy.
Yeah, they definitely do.
And this is a part of etiquette now. We got to make this a part of our daily routine where we are respectful of all boundaries and, all sexes. Because what I see sometimes is that a teacher would be really respectful of a female and then put their hands all over a boy.
Yeah.
And you're like, what are you doing, man?
Yeah.
So that to me is where we have to be proactive. We have to be the change we want to see.
Yeah.
And part of that is positioning yourself when you're coaching people, being respectful of their body and what they're doing, asking permission. And, I got kids that roll their eyes when I ask them.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah. I'm like, but, and I just kind of look at them like, yeah. But they understand.
Jeremiah says, if I may. And they're like, okay.
Yeah. Well, they understand.
He's going to move them or something.
Yeah. They know that I'm going to grab them either at the wrists or if I haven't grabbed them by their belt, I'm going to grab you by your belt. I'm very clear where I put my hands. I don't try to make it to where it's like it's not spoken about.
Yeah.
I feel like if we're talking openly in front of everybody about what I'm about to do, should be no issue.
Yeah.
If they don't want it, they say no. I'm like, okay, but I need you to try to do this. And I just move on.
Yeah.
I'm respectful no matter what their decision is.
Yeah.
That's to me is one of those things that I guess I got to get off my soapbox.
No, here are a couple ideas because I do this naturally. So I work as a personal trainer, and the room that I work in is fairly small. But even if I wasn't in this very small room, I would be the same way. There's a couple of things that I normally do, and I train mostly females, and obviously I'm a female, but I still make these adjustments. If a person is in a straddled position, for some reason they're stretching, or they're in a horse stance or whatever, try to not stand in center line view of that person because it's kind of awkward and they're trying to stretch and stuff, and you really shouldn't, like Jeremiah said, money shot, try to move out of the way. If a person is I don't know, that's kind of the main one, I guess. Anything private area related, try to keep your distance and try to actually stay out of eye shot if you can. Right. And Jeremiah also already talked about making adjustments, make sure to always ask. I don't even know how to describe this because I do it so naturally. There's this idea of mirroring. So whenever you are training someone, you're trying to mirror what they're doing. So if a client is on the ground, you are on the ground. If they're standing, you are standing. Or if you want them to stand, you stand. So you're actually teaching them without saying anything. You get in that habit of doing it with them, and then you start doing it with your body language. Hey, I need you on the ground next. Yeah. So if I'm having a conversation with someone and I need them to move on to the next thing, I'll sit down, and then they'll know, I got to get back on the floor again to do the next exercise. Yeah. So you're learning to communicate with your client or your student in that way, and then you're also giving them that personal space to be able to go through that movement freely. Same thing can apply to karate. Based on your body language, how you want them to move, but then also giving them the freedom, freedom to be able to move, but then also giving them respect enough to, even if they are not conscious of, what their body looks like, you're moving out of the way so that you don't see those things. Yeah, you're
teaching modesty through your own nonverbal actions.
Yes.
And that's, that's a value that I want to kind of encourage in people. So no matter what, I'm always doing to do that.
When I have guys whose pants are hanging down and I can see their butt crack, I try to move out of the way so I don't see their butt crack.
Yeah, basically.
This happens all the time.
I will say this too, and I don't know if it might happen in a lot of dojos, but we have very fortunate to have black belts come in and help us a lot.
Yep.
And we have a good rotation of guys that just are committed to the culture and the community that we're building up. And what I encourage is when you see someone coaching a kid or another student, give them their space. Mm-hmm. Even if you're concerned that what they're getting coached or what they're being told is not quite what you're trying to do, give them their space. Yeah. Let them get through it. And if the child is better from it, let it be. Yeah. But if there is a no response at all, just let it be also. The only time I'd ever step in, that would be after the guy's done coaching. Yeah. And the child is worse. Is having a harder time.
So you just mean professionally from a teaching perspective?
Yes, from a teaching perspective.
Well, I want to also share this because Jeremiah's done this. I'm not going to go too much into detail. But if a teacher is crossing those personal boundaries with a student, not being a pervert, but you feel as a teacher that they're getting too close or that they are not positioning themselves in a way that would be more conducive to completely clearing themselves of personal boundaries. This is something that we see with people who have been training for a long, long time, is that they lost their personal boundaries years ago because of the way that their teacher taught them. And I experienced the same thing where I lost my personal boundaries. We actually talked about this in the women's podcast. Mm-hmm. I lost my personal boundaries because of the way that some teachers taught me. And it was a big issue that I had. And it's actually a reason I almost left karate. So when you see a guest instructor or a helper working with your students, it is very important to almost immediately remove them from the situation if they're in a bad position. Yeah. And they have to understand that you're going to do that. It's a conversation that it's not lovely to have, right. But even before you get to that point, these are the kinds of things, if you're going to be running a business, if you're running a dojo, you need to make sure that you are setting that in stone and making that conversation happen. Hey, these are the kind of things you need to look out for as far as personal boundaries. If I see you cross that line, I'm going to remove you from the situation. Not to be rude. I'm not going to reprimand you. I'm just going to check you and be like, hey, move this way. You're getting a little bit too close. And it's going to be nothing personal. I'm not going to remove you from your position, but I'm just going to make sure that hey, I saw that you didn't notice you were getting too close, and I'm helping you set those boundaries. Right. I'm harping on this because this is a big issue where, martial arts studios in the U.S. and I'm sure in other parts of the world have issue with, there are teachers who, once again, cross those personal boundaries. And a lot of martial arts instructors, like Jeremiah said, are getting a bad rap because of those particular teachers who are molesting their students, or teachers who are just getting too close, or putting a bad taste in people's mouths. And these are martial arts studios that are supposedly, in quotes, traditional clubs, supposedly. It's important for us, even though it sucks that we have to deal with the backlash, we have to make sure that we're already setting those boundaries. We're being extremely intentional about how we are relating to our students, and we're making sure that our helpers are following those same guidelines so that there is never any question that you were treating your students with respect and that you did not abuse your kids.
If you're a head instructor or a higher position of power in your dojo, it is your responsibility to establish the right protocol and professionalism in any situation. Yep. Because if someone under you fails, it's your fault.
Yes, and
it is your liability if you're the business owner.
Yes, the problem is that you're not always going to see it coming. This is the reason that we're presenting this now. But
being proactive.
Be proactive, and also make sure, even if you don't even know what to look out for, make sure that your helpers or the people that are teaching in your dojo know, hey, these are the things that you have to look out for, but if I miss something and you step out of line, well, not to be accusatory, but if something happens where it's the situation gets bad and I recognize it, even if it's not something we've talked about before, know that I'm going to come to you and talk to you about it, or I'm going to pull you out of that situation right when I see it. Make sure you have an open line of communication with this is totally going a different direction, but make sure you have an open line of communication with your teachers.
I wanted to share, Sam Jaquinta, man, has been a...
Okay, go ahead.
No. Okay. I'm sure he'll be fine with it.
Yes, go ahead.
Sam Jaquinta has been a big part of our dojo for a long time. And Sam is one of those guys that just doesn't have personal boundaries. He when he talks to you, he's talking to you really close in the face. He's one of those guys that are hand on. And he has no ill intention. Ever. And he's teaching longer than I've ever been alive. He's been doing karate forever. And the coolest thing about it was, hey, Sam, we got a new generation of kids. They're going to be timid about this, and this is what we have to respect. when you talk to these old guys, you say, hey, this is what it is. They know what Sam's responsible for. Just let me know when I cross that line. Because I don't know. Dude, what a relief to hear from someone else. Hey, man, let me know. I don't know when I'm doing that.
Yeah.
Boom. Right?
Yeah.
And for Sam now, when he comes up on his every other Thursday, I love him being there because, dude, he will pick a kid and he will coach that kid all class.
Yeah.
And that kid will have one of the most intense karate classes he's ever experienced. And generally, 90% of the time, they're walking away with huge smiles.
Yeah.
They're just loving it.
Yeah.
But at first, they're scared. They're scared shitless.
Scared of him.
Yeah. But then they realize what he's doing and it makes sense.
Yeah.
When he gets intense, I could give him a look and be like, and he'll like gesture to me. I'm like, too close? Or no, I give him a thumbs up and he goes at it.
Yeah.
Right? We've got it down with him and I and you that when he's doing that, we just let him do it because he understands there's a point that he doesn't cross.
Yeah.
And he still gets to do his thing. He just works within that structure. And I'm thankful for the guys that are surrounding us because they're willing to do that.
Yeah.
I'm absolutely thankful. But at the same time, I think it is something that's possible in every dojo.
Yeah.
You know, because karateka.
Yeah.
We're a special breed.
We are special, all right.
Special.
All right, bonus.
Oh, boy.
All right, so our bonus rule is about sempai etiquette.
Which has notoriously been violated over and over throughout the decades.
Yes.
Yeah. Anybody that gets power that doesn't deserve it, really.
Yes.
Yeah. Senpais are what I understood to be big brother, big sister kind of roles where they try to encourage you, but they're training alongside you. That is different than an occasional younger teacher coming to your dojo and teaching. That's still sensei. You need to respect that. But a senpai is someone who's higher ranked or has longevity or longer floor time than you, and trains alongside you, but has obviously more responsibility in the dojo.
Yeah.
Kohai is your equal. That's the guy that went through the ranks with you. That's a guy or girl that's trained with you. Even if they didn't go through the ranks with you, but are Shodan Nidan with you, that's still your Kohai.
Yeah.
Well, depending how that works.
I think it's still considered.
It generally depends on like Shodan level, basically, when you make Shodan.
So one of the things with senpai, one of the points that we were making when we were making our notes is, for me, and I don't know how everyone else views this, to me, a person who is your senpai is someone who outranks you or has more time on the floor than you. Now, whether or not you still consider them senpai, if you outrank them, I think it's probably subjective. But even if they're not training, they're kind of still your senpai, right? If they still outrank you, I don't know. So the point that we're making is, if you would be considered a senpai in a dojo, but you are not training there for a long period of time, and you decide to come back and start training again,
right?
Consider yourself a visitor.
Yeah.
And refer back to rule number
1 and 2.
Number 1?
Yeah.
Rule number 1.
Yeah.
Line up to the left of whoever trains on the regular.
Yep. Basically. Senpai role and senpai responsibilities are only given to those that are active in the dojo. The moment you become deactive and inconsistent. Inactive. There you go.
There are too many
suffixes,
prefixes in the English language that mean no.
Listen. I got this thing where I make up words.
Okay.
Inactive. If you're inactive in the dojo,
you've been deactivated.
Yeah, I chose to live with this one for the rest of my life.
You're
God
welcome.
help me.
You're active in the dojo.
If you're inactive with the dojo, what tends to happen is you lose all your entitlements.
Kinda, yeah.
You go back to being the low dog, and you don't get treated that way. Obviously,
sure.
You have value and relationships, but when it comes to responsibilities in the dojo, you're at the bottom of the totem pole. Hate to tell you that.
And you should be, like, even if you have a great relationship with the community that you are not part of anymore, or if you left on mutual terms because, like, you have a job or you have other things or whatever, you have a kid. Yeah. When you come back, you should come back with humility and be like, hey, I haven't been here. I'm considering myself a visitor. Right. Once again, leaving it up to the instructor to place you where they want you to be.
Right. Basically, yeah. You know, we could sum this a whole 45-minute podcast.
Oh, I have an example, so I'm going to go on.
In like 1 minute. If you just humble yourself.
Yes.
Just humble yourself when you're in these environment, you would get so much more richer experience.
You definitely would. I want to give an example of the senpai thing. So whenever I was managing the old dojo, I had a time that I was not going to be there. There was one particular day, and there were some boys that had been there helping and volunteering, and they were Q ranks, and they were freaking awesome, and they were there every time I needed them. Even if I didn't ask them to be, they were there helping and teaching and whatever. And I wanted to give them the opportunity to teach when I was not there, because they had done so well, and I wanted to give them the chance to teach like higher ranks, because a lot of times when you're a volunteer, you end up teaching like kids and like low ranks, and like it's fine, but it takes a lot out of you. So I wanted to give them the chance to teach like higher rank groups. Well, they asked a mutual friend who is technically their senpai, even though he had not been involved in the dojo in a number of years, to come and help. And I found out that this person pushed his weight around and took over the teaching roles that I had assigned to my volunteers. And I was extremely livid. And I had to address it with the person. And I had to also tell my volunteers, don't you ever let that happen again. Because I told you that you get to teach those spots. He was not permitted to take your spots. Actually, at one of them, he tried to take over one of their spots. And the boy, he saw it coming. He was actually aware enough to see, hey, he's fixing to try to take over this class, and he jumped in front of him and started teaching. Like, he took over the class before the senpai could take the class over. So I was really proud of him for doing that, because I had specifically said, I want you to have the opportunity to teach, regardless of the fact that somebody else outranks you. Right. That was my order. I was the one managing the dojo.
But you got to see it from our perspective also, is that you earned that.
Yes,
that
exactly.
Respect
that was the whole reason I gave him the spot.
And trust.
Yes.
And trust that you're not going to do something foolish where we come back and we lose our dojo.
Right, yeah.
It's not only a teacher community thing, it's a liability thing. And if you're Q ranks listening to us, that's part of it.
Yeah.
That's part of us trying to, include you part of the community and try to get you to be an active member and see more things than what you are experiencing as a student alone.
Right.
Not to say that you should do it all the time, just that experience is unique.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
Dude, we've had some issues when we go out of town, man.
Dude, I don't know what y'all's deal is. Like, There's
some slimy characters that come out of the woodwork when we're out of town, boy. They don't
people show up. And we're so careful, like, to not share when we travel. But anyhow, all right. So that is it for our 6 rules plus 1 for I
thought it was
training.
5 rules plus 1.
It was actually 6 because one of them we broke into 2 pieces, so it was 6 plus 1. What you working on?
Dude, I've been working on side snap kick and switching. I mean, I'm embarrassed to say that.
I have to like record this and just put it on repeat.
Yeah, it sounds like I'm repeating the same thing. It's funny when you're working on something for a while that although you feel like you're improving, the mark keeps getting raised higher and higher.
Like what you're shooting for.
Yeah, what I'm shooting for, what I think is good.
Yeah.
I mean, from last year to this year, or to 6 months ago, I could tell you my side snap kick was definitely night and day different.
Yeah.
And then from 6 months ago to now, although it hasn't changed much, this recent little work that I've been working on has improved it. Most people would say, oh yeah, it's fine. But I'm not most people. I'm kind of particular about my karate. So
yeah.
I think I'm starting to get the segmental timing of the kick down.
Yeah.
But I haven't been able to go through the entire kick smoothly yet. I lift the knee up in position and then I go from there. So hopefully that works out better. My Fudo Dachi and Sochin, I've been practicing as much as I can, no matter what, just walking and doing Fudo Dachi. I feel like my alignment is better consistently. The only thing I'm working on now is the over rotation. Yeah. Turning my torso too much to where my back knee will drop. Just subtle things like that. I mean, people... Man, if you're going to train for all your life, you can never be satisfied. Yeah. Because then what do you train for?
Well, there's always things to like make more efficient too, so you don't hurt yourself long term.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, if you're going to take that perspective, that's the reason why you train for life.
Yeah.
Is because efficiency at a 20-year-old's ability, capability of speed and power compared to a 60-year-old's,
yeah.
It's more important to be efficient when you're 60. I hate to tell you that. Because you just don't have the capability to do it.
Yeah.
You have to make the most out of what you got. So, what you working on?
Still cleaning up a few more elements of Sochin. So my stepping is a little bit better. I was running into issues where when I stepped forward in Furudachi, I was like, what I was told is I looked like I was just like stepping into 45-degree horse stances rather than like making it look like I was trying to go forward. So like my torso needed to be like more in a forward motion. I need to make sure my feet are kind of transitioning straight forward as I'm in that transition point and then moving into Furudachi. It's hard to explain over a podcast, but still working on a couple things like that. Trying to not over-rotate on the inside blocks because apparently I can't get that through my head. The inside blocks toward the end when you're going to angles.
Step inside, yeah. Yeah,
I'm like over-rotating my chest and shoulders, so I need to stop doing that. A couple other small things. And then last week I trained with, Gibor Dura had done a
1 meter online seminar.
Online seminar with Scott Langley, and it's from April, and I did watch that one. But I watched it again and I went through the combos that he taught in that seminar, and I was working on one of the more complicated ones of those. I've got to work on things like my block path and the timing of the combo, but that was something different and kind of fun, so working on that as well.
Yeah, it's fun stuff.
Yeah. All right, well, thanks for listening. That turned into a very long rant and preachy thing, but anyhow, hey, by the way, make sure to subscribe to our podcast, whichever platform you're on. If you're on YouTube, you subscribe and hit the notifications bell. If you're listening online somewhere, I don't really know. Maybe you can subscribe to the podcast or something. I know on Google Podcasts you can do that. And if you can leave us a rating, that helps too, because it helps other people find our podcast. And apparently people just like listening to us sit here and babble. So we want other people to be able to sit here and listen to us babble as well.
It's going to her head.
It's not going to my head. Okay? Just like the podcast and give us a rating. And if it's not 5 stars, just forget about it, okay?
We need the peoples.
Nothing less than 5 stars.
We need the peoples.
We need the peoples. All right. Bye.
Bye.